Oh yeah, it's Necromancer time. Welcome everybody, welcome to Life Taps and Backstabs. I'm Chris. This is the first official video of the channel. All the other videos that I've been doing for Pantheon I'll put on my other channel. But I thought I would do a little video for you here today on the Necromancer first impressions. I've been playing a little bit, so I thought I would dive in and give you my first impressions on the Necromancer, some things that we can talk about, some of the abilities, how cool the pet is, how cool the class is in general, and let's have a chat. So I've been having an absolute whale of a time with this. I've never played a Necromancer in EverQuest. I had a mage in EverQuest. I then had a warlock in World of Warcraft, had a blood mage in Vanguard, and things like that. So I've never actually played a Necromancer. I was really looking forward to the Summoner, but ultimately I was a bit disappointed with the direction they went with the Summoner, which is fine. Not everybody can like every class, which is good. But the Necromancers come out, and I was like, well, I'll try definitely try the Necromancer. I've got my best friend played a Necromancer in EverQuest, so I went the mage route. But I was always a little bit jealous of his Necromancer. They are able to do all manner of cool stuff. And that's exactly the same in Pantheon as well, as it turns out. We have a little minion here. We have a little skeleton minion. So this is my level 6 spell, which is called Ghastly Corpse. You do get a spell at level 1 as well, which is Crumbling Bones. So you do start with a pet, which is great. You also start with bone chips as well. So you start with a stack of bone fragments, which is great. So you can always summon your pet to start with. They are going to change. They are going to be no rent. So you're not going to be able to create 10 Necromancers and put all the bone chips on one character, just in case you've run out or have that as an idea. So they are going to turn into no rent in the next patch, which is great. But yeah, the Necromancer is a lot of fun. We get, as our starting skills, I'll just move some of these out of the way for you so that you can see. So our starting skills are these three here. So these are the three skills, or three abilities that we start at. In fact, I think Life Tap might be level 2. Let me just quickly check. No, it's still level 1. So Life Tap, so we start with Induce Nausea, Life Tap, and Sicken, which is very, very cool. Now, Life Tap, you get 25% of the damage that the Life Tap causes back in health. It does hit quite hard for a level 1 spell. And then Sicken is one of our first lines of damage over time spells. So we're doing damage like every tick. And I believe the ticks have moved down. They used to be every 3 seconds in Pantheon. I believe they've moved the Necromancer. Whether they've moved the Necromancer or all ticks, I don't know. But I believe they've moved the Necromancer to every 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds that damage ticks in. And then we also get Nausea, which is our first Necromancer technique, which you'll notice has no cost, so we can cast this for free. And it also has a 30-meter range, which I'm loving. I'm loving the variety and the range of the range of rangers that we get. So that's a 30-meter range. Sicken is back to the usual 25-meter range, and Life Tap is a little bit closer, so 20 meters. Let's quickly check what all the other ones are. So most of the other ones are 25, 30 meter and 25. Yeah, so it's nice to see a little bit of variety. Again, it's one of the things that I brought up in one of the other videos. So that's what we start with. And then we also start with a pet. So we start with Crumbling Bones. Now, when you cast your pet, you have a random chance at what level you can summon the pet at. So at level 1, you can either have a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, or a level 4 pet. And if you hover over your pet window here, it will tell you. So this one, I've lucked out on this one. This one's level 9. This one's my next level spell, next level pet spell, which is cool. And one of the things that is quite sneaky, and I will show you this. If you right-click on your pet window, you will bring up its inventory. So we'll just have a wander and try and find a mob while I explain this. Now the inventory window there, you will notice, looks very similar to the Summoner one. That will obviously change. It will change and it will look like a skeleton.
I would not. So at the moment you can put armor on your skeleton. I wouldn't do that. It's just a bit exploity, especially when it's not going to be a thing. So I haven't been adding armor onto my skeleton. But one thing you can do, if I just go and quickly show you here, we just need to go and try and find a mob to kill. Okay, so we have some spiderlings here now. So these are just like they're green. These ones, so green con, light blue con. So you can with the Necromancer solo reasonably well, and I've been able to take a fair few yellow con mobs. Obviously, Pantheon is a grouping game. So you are encouraged to group, but if we just cast send the pet in on the spiderling, you will notice he is attacking once. So every time your pet attacks, he attacks once. So he does 9 damage to that one, and then he attacks again. He does 6 damage on that one. We'll just help him out here and put a dot on the mob. So sicken and nausea as well, and you'll see sicken hits for about 5. Nausea hits for about 7, and that's that. So what we can do is, as you're wandering around the game, I'm sure you will find weapons. So you got some rusted weapons if you're killing skeletons and things. If you put the rusted weapon in your pet's offhand, so now it has the ability to attack twice. So it has its fist in its main hand, and now it has a weapon in its offhand. So the first weapon you get on your pet, always stick it in the offhand, because now if I send this pet in to attack here, look, and if you look at the thing down here, so there we go. So it hits for 9 and 4, and then it hits for 6 and then misses. So it is now double attacking. So it's a really easy way of just doubling up your DPS. Not that the pet DPS is anything to write home about, but it's just like a nice little tip there for you all. So we'll just bring the pet back again. Again, if you right click his icon here, we can then put the spear in his main hand as well. So there we go. Right, let's have a look at some of the other spells and abilities. So the vast majority of time in the game we're going to want to be grouping. It is a group based game, so you want to try and find friends to group and play with. But on the flip side to that, when you are kind of wandering around and you just want to like kill some mobs to skin, or you're wandering and you're exploring, trying to find some harvesting nodes and things like that, then you can solo quite well. Necromancers do a really good job in EverQuest of like no contact killing, so being able to kill mobs without the mobs being able to hit back in certain different ways, and that's still definitely the way that you can do things in Pantheon. Is really good. The amount of damage that you can actually stack up. So after the pet, we obviously have some other ways of dealing damage, and we have some dots. So we got sicken, which is our first line of dots. So that is conjuration, and we also really, I was not expecting this at all. We've got a Necromancer technique, which is no cost, 8-second cooldown, which is fine. So it only lasts 6 seconds on the mob, which is also fine because it's free. 30-meter range, but no cost at all, and instant cast. So you can do it while you're running away, or you can do it when you're just kind of standing up. It's really cool. You can use it like as soon as you cast sicken. So if you want to, one of the things that you can do is cast Curse of Pain once you get that on the mob, and then as it's running in, you can cast sicken, and as soon as sicken finishes, you can then drop that on instantly. So you end up with 3 dots on the mob without it really getting into contact with you, which is quite cool. So then they will just kind of tick away with the snare working. Like I say, the snare is not it's not a particularly good snare at this level. I'm sure it will improve as we get higher level. At this level, I think it's only about 15-20% snare. It doesn't slow them down that much, if that. But yeah, we get. I was not expecting this little induced nausea. One thing that I would absolutely love, and they need to do this on the Dire Lord as well. The Dire Lord Ready Blade is exactly the same as this, and also Ready Blade is just such a lame name for a Dire Lord technique. So induced nausea is fine. I'd love them to change the icon, and it pretty much the same with Locust Swarm as well. You can't tell whether it's up or not. Like these ones, if these aren't up and you can't cast them, they grey out really easily. But yeah, you can't spot on these at all. You can't tell whether these ones are up or not. So let's have some colour on these, please. That would be great. Thank you very much. Yeah, so having those little, having that little free one is really interesting, and also it gives you a bit of a conundrum in when you're in a group as well, because what you can do when you're soloing is fine, because you can use that, and it's that balancing act now of how we want to use our mana and how you want to use your resources to create damage. So in a group, do you want to be sitting down so that you're medding and you're improving our resting health and mana regen, or do we want to stand up and use induce nausea? So you've got to stand up because it's only a 6-second. It only lasts for 6 seconds. So you stand up, cast it, and then you sit back down again. Is that worth it? So it's a lovely little nuance of balancing act, a little dilemma for us to know whether we want to stand up and cast it, whether we want to stay standing, whether we want to be in there hitting it with our sword. I do love a Necromancer with a sword. So I gave this Necromancer, he's not really twinked at all, I gave this Necromancer a sword and a hood, because I thought that's how I want my Necromancer to look. That's how I want my Necromancer to look. So that was all I did. I gave him a sword and a hat, which is quite cool. But what you can do, like I say here, so these are all greyed out, and you can see that they're all greyed out. If I just back up a little bit, there we go. So you can see that one's greyed out, sort of. I mean, the red lettering down at the bottom is a bit more obvious, but as soon as you get close, you still can't really see. I don't know. I just love it if it had a bit more colour. Same with the locust one. Let's get some green on that locust one. Anyway, enough of that. Let's have a look at some of the other things that we can do as a Necromancer. So we've got the dots. We've had a quick chat about the pet. And one of the other line of spells that we do get are these siphon or drain spells, which is rather interesting. Now I have only got drain intellect at the moment. You do also get drain stamina and drain strength. Now, as you can see, I've only got one. I've only got 1 silver. I didn't twink myself by giving myself any money. I thought I'd just kind of start off because my other 2 classes that I've done. Well, I've done a few classes, but I've not really done any casters, and I particularly haven't done any casters from the start, sort of fresh, without any twinking, if you like. Like when the summoner came out, I gave the summoner loads of the woven armor from Mad Run, and I gave him like 2 gold, so he just bought all his spells as soon as they were available. However, this one, I've just started completely fresh, so I haven't got enough money to grab all the spells. So I haven't got. I think there's a. There's one other spell as well, a cackle bones or something. There's another spell which I haven't got, but I haven't got the other siphons. So you get siphon strength and siphon stamina as well. Now siphon intellect is quite good. It gains you gain 1 intellect. So if I have a look now, so I've got 14 intellect here. So if I cast it on this Spiderling, you'll notice I go up to 14 intellect. Oh, sorry, no, that was resisted. Let's try that again. You'll notice I go up to 15 intellect. There we go. So I've gone up to 15 intellect, and I've got my little intellect buff here. I'll just send the pet in just to help out with this. And you get the same with the stamina and the strength as well. Now the stamina and the strength, so strength, let's take that off. Strength obviously gives you more damage or more damage potential in melee, and stamina increases your maximum health. So increasing your maximum health as a Necromancer is going to be pretty good, I think. But I liked the spell crit, so I got the intellect one because I think that's going to be rather good. Now you will notice on here, I think this is a group. I think this is a group one, so it drains it and then gives it to the group. I might be wrong. It just says empower yourself with the absorbed amount for up to 5 minutes. So it might just be myself, but I thought it was a group buff. I'll have to try that next time I'm in a group. Now, the stats were an interesting one because when I started the class, when I started my rogue, I went dexterity, so I put two straight into dexterity. I started my Dire Lord and I put 2 straight into stamina because Dire Lords, their shields are they're predetermined on the hit points that you have, so you get like 25% shield. Damage shield of your health, so the more health that you get, the more damage shield that you get, so that's quite cool. Or damage absorption shield that you get. On the Necromancer, it's an interesting one. I'd love to know what everybody else has been putting their stats in, because I put 2 into intellect because, like I say, I quite like the idea of the crits. So if you crit life tap, then you're going to be healing yourself more. However, putting 2 into stamina might not be a bad thing either, because we do get life leech, which is healing yourself over time, and we get a way of converting health into mana as well. So every tick, your health ticks down and your mana ticks up. So having more hit points at that level would help as well, because you effectively have more mana or a potential for more mana. So that's a possibility as well. So I'd love to know what people put their stat into, whether you have put it into intellect, whether you have put it into something else. Maybe you have tried strength, 1 into strength and 1 into stamina, or put a little bit into armor class just so that you can get hit a little bit more effectively. I've got an armor class at the moment of 40, which isn't great, but yeah. So I'd love to know what everybody else has put their stats into and why. I'm curious to see, because in EverQuest it was always hit point potential, so Necromancers with lots of hit points were really, really good, and going into Pantheon I had that idea as well, but it was more, let's just see how it works out with intellect. So I just had a few more tries with the intellect to see how it would level, and what impact it might have. Maybe having more crits on the life tap and maybe having more crits on the dots is going to be more beneficial than having more hit points. But yeah, and that leads me on to one of my favourite things about this class at the moment, and that is the balancing of all the resources. I'm absolutely loving that. So the same way as when I was playing the rogue, well, same with the Dire Lord as well. Like, I love looking at the resources that you have and trying to allocate those resources in the most efficient ways or the most effective ways. So one of my friends gets really cross at me for pulling at 50% health and things like that. But from experience with killing certain mobs, you know that maybe you can take that mob and you only lose 20% health, so it's okay to pull it at 50% health and things like that. And one of the fun things about a Necromancer is you now have all sorts of different resources that you've got at your disposal. So you have your pet's health, you have your own health, you have your own mana, and then you can convert your health into mana, and you can convert your mana into health as well. So you're constantly having a play around with, okay, so what is the most efficient way of using my mana to kill this slog beetle? So I can dot it twice, I can run away a little bit, and that's saving my hit points, and then by the time it gets to me it is already down at like 60% health. I can then hit it for a little bit, and then when it gets down here maybe I can life tap it, and then it puts me back up at full health. So, well, it didn't quite land that time, and then it puts me back up to full health. So it's that beautiful kind of balancing act of what resource do I want to use now, and what resource is going to give me the most benefit in the long run. And I'm absolutely loving that kind of balancing act going on with the Necromancer, and that also gives you opportunities to try and push you're soloing. So you can, I mean, I know groups are the way to go, and I have been grouping with this one. We went up and we cleared the skeletons around here for quite a long time, which was really, really good fun. But I do like kind of wandering around and exploring and just killing mobs as and when I find them. I've done it with the rogue. The rogue was a little bit more difficult, but you could do it with the rogue. The resource balancing on the rogue, you've obviously only got your hit points to play with. You can snare a little bit and run away and sort of wait for a few of the dots to tick off and then go back in. But it's absolutely that sort of balancing act of resources is just pushed to the nth degree with this beautiful class. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying that. It's fantastic, and I think I would really like to say just a massive sort of well done sort of to Visual Realms, because for here's the first look at the Necromancer, here's all the kind of the abilities that we've got. I think it's a really good kind of starting point. I think it's fantastic. It's ever so good fun. So the other way, obviously, you can. So the way I was talking about earlier. Let's get out of here, out of the way of the Viper. So this spider here. Just get into. Oh no, we did get the Viper. Oh dear, never mind. So that's 2 dots, 3 dots, and the pet will just sit there and smash it to bits now. And that is, I mean, that's yellow. So, and that was actually having contact as well with the mob. So this wasn't a no contact. This wasn't a no contact kill, but that was all helped massively by having a level 9 pet, which was cool. Okay, so in a group play for the Necromancer, you may or may not know, but I played a rogue in the last season. I got the rogue up to level 35. He had pretty much every single piece of gear. We went on loads of raids. We were killing Hangor all day, every day. It was really good fun. We did Mad Run. He had some of the drops from the Aganoct and things like that. And I really enjoyed playing the rogue because you were so involved in a group. Like, you could do things in a group to contribute to how smoothly that group ran. So, for instance, if there were ever any ads, you could route the ad. You could lock down one of the ads. You could snare and make sure that if somebody did pull aggro, that the mob was running to them very slowly to give the tank time to get aggro back and things like that. So you felt very powerful in a group as a rogue, and I think so far as a Necromancer, I mean, I realise I'm only level 6 and I've only got a very limited amount of resources and kind of support, if you like, because the Necromancer has been classed as a support class, which I find rather interesting. But you do have, I mean, we've been killing here, which has been perfect because obviously they're undead and I do have undead stuff. And being able to route one, if we do get an ad, has been absolutely just so much fun. Being able to kind of go, the group panics and like there's 2 mobs coming in. It's like, I don't know what to do. So you can route one of them and kind of snare the other one and slow it down a little bit so that we can kind of pull them and split them a bit, get the pull under control, and then you can go in and drop all your dots on. One of the things which has been a little bit of a challenge is controlling the pet, so making sure that the pet isn't attacking the mob that you've routed. So remembering to kind of have your pet on back off and making sure that he's backing off and not attacking your assist. Has been a bit of a challenge to remember, but I'm sure that will just come with a little bit of muscle memory, which is really good. The length of time it's taking to kill the mobs, I don't think is detrimental to the fact that we have dots, as in damage over time. So because we are doing damage over time and we're not just nuking boom like a wizard, so we can stack our stack the dots on the mob, and we can just kind of sit down and let the damage happen. and it feels a little bit more, I don't want to say sustainable, but it sort of feels a little bit more level-headed than the wizard. So the wizard has to kind of pick their times to nuke, so you don't want to nuke too early to draw aggro. You've obviously got to drop in your techniques and debuff the mob as well. But yeah, they definitely don't feel weak in a group. They definitely feel good fun. And I really want to get a few more levels and try some of the other areas outside of a skeleton camp. I think that'll be really good. Right, if we go up into here, so we're in the caster area. So we've got the caster area here. I love this area; it's really cool. We've got the summoner trainer is down there. We've got the wizard and the enchanter trainer over the bridge over there. But if we go across here, and we go into the darkness, all the best classes have their trainers in the darkness. So we've got the Necromancer, the Rogue, and the Dire Lord. All have their trainers in the darkness here. So let's have a quick look at some of the abilities that we get. Now, when I started this character, like I said, I didn't want to twink him too much. Now, when I did my summoner, at the time I had a level 35 rogue who had like loads of stuff, and he was wandering around Mad Run and Hangul with all my friends in the guild. So my summoner, I gave him like 3 gold. I gave him an entire set of Mad Run armor. He had a wand, glowy wand and everything. So he was twinked and everything. So he just bought. He didn't last very long. I think I only got to level 10, and I just didn't like the class. But he bought every single spell when it was available. For this one, I wanted to in particular, see what it was like to be a caster, because my best friend who plays on here as well is always saying, "Oh, I've just leveled, but I can't afford my next level spell. I need to go and get some more money and stuff." So. I have, as you can see, I've only got 1 silver, so I still can't afford all of my level 6 spells. Now, I have skipped the Drain Strength and the Drain Stamina. I did pick up my Drain Intellect. I have skipped Rack Bones, because that's an undeath only. Undead Curse dot, if you like, so I haven't picked that one up. Ghastly Corpse I obviously picked up because that's my pet. And then I've got the Curse of Pain, which is our first snare, and then we've also obviously got Life Tap as well. So in terms of our classic abilities that we have, let's have a look at the pets first. So we start with Crumbling Bones at level 1. It's the one that everybody gets straight away. And then we get, at level 6, we get Ghastly Corpse, which is our next pet. Ghastly Corpse can have a pet at level 6, 7, 8 or 9. So they're the 4 levels that our pet can be at level 6. At level 1 you can have level 1, 2, 3 or 4. I think that's right. I don't think it goes to 5. I think it's level 1, 2, 3 or 4. Yes, that's right. And then our next pet after that is level 12. So it's Assemble Bones here. So we then get the next level at level 12. Now in EverQuest, the pet levels were really important, because if we get our pet at level 12, at level 11 it was really difficult to level an XP. I don't think that's going to be as big an issue in Pantheon, because obviously it's a bit more, it's pushed a bit more that it's a group game. So to get from level 11 to level 12, we're going to be up in the manor, or we're going to be over in AVP somewhere grouping and getting XP as a group. So the pet, the lower level pet, we're not going to feel it quite as much, unless we do kind of want to go out and solo a little bit at level 11 when we're going to kind of harvest things and stuff. So Assemble Bones is our level 12 pet, and then if we go up a little bit higher, I believe it's level 18. It is, where is he? There it is. So Haunting Shade. So Summon a Skeletal Servant at level 18. So that's our next level spell, and then we get at level 24 is the one after that. So that is again, it's just a Skeletal Servant. And if we keep going up, we get to Malignant Dead. So again, it's Summon a Skeletal Servant. If we go to our level 34, there we go. Level 38. Level 38 pet. Summon a Skeletal Assassin. We get, at level 38, we get a skeleton which is a rogue, which is going to be awesome. If we're going to have to make sure we are very, very in control of the pet, making sure he's backing off and then going in at the particular angle, because I'm pretty sure he's going to get some sort of backstab attack. So we get a rogue pet at level 38, and then at level 40, summon a skeletal mage. So we get a caster. We get a caster at level 40. Now, there have been hints at other kind of types of pets as well. I'm not going to spoil that. But a rogue pet at level 38 and a caster pet at level 40 sound really, really cool. Right. Life taps. So the life taps, again, that's another life tap line of spells. So every time if you kind of, as you level up, you're then going to get life draw at level 8, which is a new life tap. You're going to get life, where's the next one? You get life drain at level 16, which again is another life tap. We're going to get a dot heal, which is life leech. That's the first one at level 10. So we can put that on a mob, and then as it does damage, it's going to heal us very, very slowly. So the dot does 25% damage of the 25% of the damage dealt by the dot is then used by healing us. Now, life leech is at the moment bugged. So if you are a VIP and you are playing at the moment, this should be fixed in the next few days on a patch. So hopefully, by the time you're watching this video, hopefully it will be fixed. However, if it is, if this dot is on the mob and you die, so you then go down and you are dead, you have a status of dead, so you die, you lose experience. Life leech then heals you when it ticks. It heals you back up, but then because you're dead, you die again, and then that just rinse and repeats. So you end up losing XP, lose XP, lose XP, lose XP, until life leech runs off the mob. So if you're at all scared of that, don't cast life leech anywhere near the end of the mob, or if you think you're in any danger of dying. In a group, you should be okay, because you're not going to be pulling aggro off anything in theory for a while, but just be careful on life leech at the moment, or alternatively just don't die. Right, so some other dots. So we also we had the we've got the conjuration, so the disease dot. We also get, if we have a look here, we also get heat blood. So this is one of our first dots, which is a fire-based dot. So that's really, really cool. And then that goes all the way up to the higher levels, where we get ignite blood, which is going to be a higher level dot and things like that. Same with the siphon spirit tap. So that's siphoning off health on the mob and giving it to us. And one of the cool things, which is going to make playing this class so much fun, is one of these. Where is it? One of these. The life drain. No, it's not life drain. Pact of Shadow. There we go. So Pact of Shadow is the first one. So this is mana to mana. So this is us taking our mana and giving it to the target. That's at level 16. We can also, I don't know whether I can very, very quickly find it. We can also, I think it's Dark Empathy. There it is. At level 9, we can take a portion of our health and give it to a target as well. So this is where I'm going to start having so much fun with the Necromancer, because when I was talking earlier about balancing all the resources and everything, we can now balance resources across an entire party. It's not just balancing resources of ourselves and the mob and how much resources do I need to kill the mob and what's the efficiency of that. It's now, well, this is going to be a long fight. I'm going to give a little bit of my mana to the cleric. I'm then going to take some of my health and turn that into mana. I'm going to take some of my health and give it to the rogue that's just accidentally got hit by a poison dot or something to heal him, and then I'm going to take the mob's health and life tap that back to me to give me more health. I'm then going to take some of my health, turn it into mana for me because I'm running short on mana. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be such a good thing. Such fun, such a good time. And one of the great things about Pantheon as well is the speed, the time to kill, the time that it takes to kill things at the moment in Pantheon, particularly in a group when you're on group mobs. We're just going to have all sorts of fun with this, balancing everything and being really proactive. And I think, in fact I know, that a good Necromancer is barely going to be noticed in a group in terms of how... Well, he is going to be noticed because everybody's going to be going, well, this is just easy. Because clerics are always going to be full mana. All the DPS are going to be always full health. It's just going to be so much fun. Imagine the wizard just constantly nuking because we're slowly giving him mana while we're dotting, and it's just going to be so much fun. So this ability spellbook, I can't wait to kind of get up to these higher levels. There are going to be races coming in this season as well, so this version of Diablo is only going to last as long as it takes Visual Realms to get the elf in game. So as soon as the elf is in game, I am going to have Diablo the elf Necromancer, so I'll kind of restart again. I was talking to one of the guys in the VIP server the other day, and I quite like the restart kind of feel when you get here, when you're starting a class over. And I really enjoyed the start of last season when everybody went back to zero and we all started again. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to starting Diablo off as a elf, but that is something to talk about in another video. So let's go and talk about something else on the Necro. Right, so what are some of the changes that I might like to see? I mean, this is only first impressions. First impressions are amazing. I'm absolutely in love with this class. It's fantastic. First impressions. This seems very good. 7 damage a tick for 6 seconds for no cost at a 30-meter range does seem very good. Now, I will counter that by saying that in a group, you're trying to keep this on all the time, but that does mean that you tend to be always standing, because you're casting something else that always needs to be put back on because it's got a very short duration. It only lasts 6 seconds, and it's got an 8-second cooldown, so you've got 2 seconds of it not being on. So the fact that it's free damage might outweigh the fact that you are not medding and getting mana back to do damage in other ways. So although it's quite high damage, it might sort of balance out, if that makes sense. Again, it's that how am I spending my resources? And one of the ways that I'm spending my resources, maybe I'm sitting down and medding and resting to get some mana back so that I can do Sicken and life tap, or keep the Curse of Pain on the mob and things like that. Or I could stand up, not get the mana back, but do the damage for free with nausea. So it's one of those funny little things. So I'm not sure whether I don't know. I'm not sure whether I want that to do less damage or it to cost more, but I don't think I do. I think I quite like where it's at the moment, because in a very not a fast fight, but a very involved fight, there are plenty of occasions when this isn't on the mob because you didn't quite get it on the mob, or you were doing something else, or you really wanted to med for a second. Oh dear, there's a hole there. There we go. So right there's a hole in the ground. Visual Realms, you can go and sort that out. Am I medding to get a little bit more mana so that I can do some of my other spells, over standing up just to cast that to get 6 seconds of quite high damage? Obviously, I've said it already, but I would really like to see these in different colours so that you can see when they are greyed out. I can't see when. I mean, I do play with slightly opaque ability bars. There we go. But again, they're not very colourful, so you can't quite see. So that one is on, but that is now off. So you can't. it's not very visible. It's not very easy to see. So I would like some colour in Induced Nausea and Locust Swarm, and maybe a controversial one, but I don't like the fact that the techniques cost a percentage of mana. I think I would far rather them cost mana, like a an actual amount. Now that I'm guessing that's because I'm going to use Locust Swarm throughout my levels. So if it costs 5 mana now, at level 50, 5 mana is going to be insignificant. So I'm guessing that's why it's there. It's one of those things that I just think it penalises people who intentionally try and get the most mana they can, the biggest mana pool they can. Locust Swarm is then costing more base mana for them because they put the time into trying to get a higher mana pool than somebody who hasn't got as high a mana pool. So that for me might cost me at level 50, that might cost me 60 mana, whereas it might cost somebody else at level 50 30 mana. So I can't quite decide whether percentage is a good thing there or not. I think it is, because like I say, these techniques you're going to be using these all the way through your levels, all the way up to level 50. So if you make these cost 5 mana now, having them cost 5 mana when they're at level 50, you can't really, that doesn't scale. So I can understand why they do it. It's just one of those things that it just bugs me a little bit. I can't quite get my head around on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Now the other thing that I will say is life tap. I mean, I know life tap, they've done a really good job of sort of balancing life tap, because it's a 3-second cast, which is a long time. So it takes a long time to cast, and he's out of range by the time you cast it as well. So it takes a long time to cast. But my God, it hits for a lot. That hits for 21. Hits for 21. I mean, I know I'm now level 6, but it can hit for. I'm sure it can hit for 21s at level 1 as well. I don't think that leveled up particularly much more because I'm level 6. So one thing I would maybe say about life tap is that maybe the health restored could go up and the damage could come down. Maybe. I don't know whether that's going to overpower our healing, but like, so that hit for 21, but I only got 5. I was only healed for 5. I mean, I have 76 hit points now. At level 1, I can't remember how many hit points I had at level 1. Say I had 40 at level 1. So it's healing you for about an eighth of your health at level 1. Which is enough to kind of keep you going. That's fair enough. But I think I would like to see the damage go down, the percentage go up, so I'm still healing about the same, but the damage to the mob has gone. I don't know, because it's still 7 mana and a 3-second cast, so maybe it's okay. Maybe I'd like to be actually thinking about it. Maybe I would, because it is 7 mana, and I mean, how much mana have I got? I've got 58. So it's not like I can, and particularly at level 1, you can't just like chain cast it. You can cast it maybe twice in a fight, after you've put all your dots on as well. So maybe it's about right. I think maybe you could heal a bit more health. That being said, I don't have life leech, so I don't know how much health that will be giving as a heal over time as well. So there are obviously a lot of ways in which a Necromancer is going to be able to heal himself. One of the things that I do like about the Necromancer, and it's exactly the same thing that I said about why I love the Rogue, is that the abilities seem to come in at really interesting points through the levels. So at level 1 you start with a life tap, you start with a dot, and you start with this nausea, and you start with a pet. So straight away you have a way of getting your health back, a way of dealing damage with a dot, and you start with your pet. They're your 3 kind of core class principles, and they're the ones that you start with. And then as you start leveling, it's like, okay, well, here is a root that you can use against undead mobs, here is a leech that you can use to steal some stats, and then here is a snare. So you start dropping in all those little kind of class identities as well as you start leveling, and it teaches you nice and slowly through the levels, unlike things like the Paladin, which I felt a complete disconnect with when I was leveling. I had no idea what the identity of a paladin was through the abilities which I was learning. I just had no clue. I didn't know what was happening. So the Necromancer, the Rogue, and arguably the Dire Lord as well, I've really liked how all those three have leveled and kind of introduced the class on the way. So that's been really, really cool. So the other two techniques that we get, so this is at level 6, so that was at 18. So the techniques that you get when you level up, when you hit certain skill levels, you will get some techniques that kind of pop up in your book. So you'll notice they kind of like pop up in here. You have learned a new technique, Force. You have learned a new technique, Locust Swarm. Things like that. So these two pop up at level 18. So at adventuring skill. So your conjuration is your kind of base skill, if you like. So you want to keep an eye on that. So when that gets to 18, you will learn Locust Swarm and Force just automatically. They'll just automatically appear in your book, which is really, really cool. Now, Force is one of our first ones which creates these technique openings, if you like. So we can create an opening gap state on the mob. So we can cast that on the mob, and it lasts for 30 seconds, and then other classes, generally the melee classes, can then take advantage of that opening gap state, and they can find gaps in the armor and slow the mob down, for instance, or they can lower its armor class, or they can lower its magic resistances and things like that. So this is a really good, when you're in a group, you want to be checking and asking how many opening gap states your group need to be able to take advantage of. Now, it's really good when you are in a group to know what that opening gap state looks like. See here, so if you have a look at the mob, when I put the opening gap on there, it creates a little target window there like that. So that's something that your melee classes can look out for, and then they can do a state themselves, which creates exposed. It creates an exposed state, and that's like it's like a little green man icon debuff. And then we are going to be able to, in the same way that they can take advantage of our opening gap state, we are then able to take advantage of their exposed state, and then we can manipulate that exposed state and reduce certain things as well. So we also get here, as well as our Force, we also get Locust Swarm. So this is, again, it costs 4% mana, which is fine. Now this one creates a disorientated state. Now disorientated state, this is one thing that confused me. Well, it didn't confuse me. We were investigating and trying to work out how this worked in previous seasons, and then they've tweaked the combat system now, which is quite cool. But the disorientated state, it allows other classes, other classes will have abilities that say, takes advantage of disorientated state to, for example, stun the mob for 2 seconds, things like that. So what we can do is we can get this brown rat here, we can throw it in a disorientated state. It does 7 damage straight away. I don't think it does any more, it's not like a dot, it just does 7 damage straight away. But there is the little icon there for the disorientated state. Let's just throw another one in as well. I've got 15 seconds to wait. But this one is going to be a little bit more specific. So if you are, I believe it's a monk, if you are grouping with a monk, for instance, you would be able to use this one, and then a monk will have an ability that takes advantage of disorientated state to stun the mob. So if you're fighting a mob that has a spell that it casts, like a complete heal or something, then you could use this, you could use Locust Swarm in combination with the monk. There it is, look. In combination with the monk to then interrupt and stop the mob casting its complete heal and things. So that's how the Locust Swarm, I believe that's how the Locust Swarm works. Yeah, there we go. So there's that one as well.